gracious good day to one and all. Once again, 'tis I, Norton the First, by grace of God, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. Joined as we are every weekend by the Countess Lola Montez of Landsfeld, our guest superstar. Good day, Countess.
Good day, good majesty. And how are we today?
We are splendid.
Good, good.
This is episode number 152. Today is October 10th, 2020. Our 208th day under COVID-19 restrictions. And don't forget, this is now available not only as a vlog, but also as a podcast. So check that out. So Countess, what do you have for us today?
Well, I must say, I want to have a few surprises as usual. But I want to say the air is so clear in San Francisco for, oh my goodness, the first time in many, many days.
Many days.
And for all those poor folk that have lost their homes in California from the fires, my heart goes out to you. So many friends have had to evacuate, but yet now a few of them have gotten to go home. So I'm very happy for them as well. Below, don't forget to like us and comment. And I think, it's just a lot of times we talk about crime and about the evils of the world, but there's a lot to be grateful for. And today I want to share a story about a profile of a woman that was here in San Francisco, Donaldina Cameron.
Ah, yes.
Yes. And, it makes me think of how much evil there is in this world, and there's good, there's bad, and it's the yin-yang of things. So, we talk about burglars, coming around. Do you know what kind of shoes burglars wear?
No.
Sneakers. What does a gospel singer say to clear his or her throat?
What's that?
A hymn. Why do they say amen in church instead of a woman? Because they sing hymns instead of hers. How do you stop a bull from charging?
How's that?
Cancel its credit card.
That's older than me.
What do you call a priest that becomes a lawyer?
What's that?
A father-in-law. I'm thinking of the story of the Sunday school teacher that was observing her classroom as the children drew pictures.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher would occasionally walk around the class and see each child's artwork. And as she approached one little girl, who was especially working hard, she asked what the drawing was. And the little girl told her, "I'm drawing God." "But sweetie," the teacher said, "nobody actually knows what God looks like." And automatically, the little girl continued drawing and said, "Well, they certainly will in a minute." A friend of mine bought a new Corvette, and he was so happy. He invited a rabbi, a priest, and a pastor to come over and bless it. Well, the priest sprinkled some holy water and chanted in Latin, and the pastor invoked the name of God and led everyone in a silent prayer. And then the rabbi chanted a prayer in Hebrew and then cut off the tip of the Corvette's tailpipe.
Well, Countess, I have been told with this marvelous beard I have that I'd become a great rabbi. But you know what? I'm going to become a moil. The pay is terrible, but the tips are great.
Chop, chop.
Well, they say if you work on elephants, the tips are bigger.
Well, I think we'd better move on to hearing about Donaldina Cameron,
I
don't
think
you
so.
think?
Yes.
So, who was Donaldina Cameron? The Farquhar, or the White Devil, she was called, the Angry Angel of Chinatown, or Lomo, Little Mother. Now, in the early days of San Francisco, the first and oldest Chinatown in North America, was beginning to thrive in spite of racism, lack of resources, and the dire conditions faced by immigrants here. And then, of course, there was the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, was the first piece of federal immigrant legislation in the United States, and it prohibited immigrants from any area considered undesirable, which included most of Asia. It also barred Chinese women from entering the United States unless they were already married to men in the United States. Originally passed to prohibit the sex trafficking of Asian women and the influx of Asian male laborers, it instead created a dangerous and illegal system where young women would present forged papers that said they were already members of Chinese families in the United States. The phenomena was dubbed the paper daughters, and the women often referred to as muisayas were sold as domestic servants or forced prostitutes by the tongs, the criminal societies. These women lived brutal lives, usually dying within 5 years. Now, in previous episodes, we have talked about Madame Artois, and this was all a part of that, of course, but she was gone by the time this was all happening. It was still going on. During the time, San Francisco City Hall was run by Abe Roof and Eugene Schmitz. They took kickbacks from the Tong groups, resulting in very little government action against this problem. The Chinese Six Companies was a Chinese organization that attempted to stop the Tongs, but eventually collapsed when the Tongs infiltrated the organization. So much corruption was prevalent in San Francisco in those days. And we know that basically in San Francisco, there was a policy to stay out of Chinatown and let Chinatown govern themselves because they were so alien and foreign to most of the Anglo population. And so the city would turn a blind eye to whatever was going on in Chinatown. On July 26, 1869, Donaldina Cameron was born. She was the youngest of 7 children to a Scottish family that lived on a sheep farm in New Zealand. Her family moved to California when she was 3.5 years old, and during her childhood, Donaldina had she had very little contact and experience with immigrant populations while living on that large sheep farm ranch in San Gabriel Valley. Tragically, the family's sheep got rustled and they hit on hard times, and Donaldina was in school, but the money was now lacking, and she went to her grandmother and asked her, "What shall I do? Shall I get married?" Or, limited in those days for women. There were very few options. Well, grandmother wisely advised Donaldina to take a year off from school and don't marry yet. Give the family some time to get back on their feet. And in the meantime, our church, they were Presbyterians, needs some help with the children in San Francisco's Chinatown. And you could do that for a while and think things over. Well, Donaldina and her family were Presbyterians, as I mentioned, and she thought that that would be a good experience. And Donaldina was thinking, well, maybe she would be teaching the children some sewing and a few Bible verses. And a family friend, Mary P.D. Brown, the former president of the Women's Occidental Board of Foreign Missionaries, took Donaldina to the Presbyterian home in San Francisco to expose her to the world around her. At the home, Donaldina met Margaret Culbertson, and in 1895 became a sewing teacher there. Donaldina was appalled at the conditions in San Francisco, Chinatown. Slavery of children? Children and young women were being sold for prostitution? Culbertson and the Presbyterian home acted as a place of refuge for women forced into sex slavery and freed indentured female Chinese servants, where they could be safe from the outside world and get an education. Together, Culbertson and Cameron worked to rescue the Chinese immigrants until Culbertson's death in 1897. Now, the United States had fought the Civil War from 1861 to 1865, and that had freed the African Americans from slavery. But in San Francisco's Chinatown, slavery was still going on and would continue for a total of 28 years.
Oh, my.
Donaldina Cameron was appalled by that fact. 2 years after Culbertson's death in 1897, Donaldina Cameron became superintendent of the Presbyterian home at the age of 27. She continued the mission of the home, saving the young women from sex slavery, and many of the friends and families of these girls left secret messages for Donaldina at the Presbyterian house, indicating the house where a girl was being held captive. Often criminal tongue members who nicknamed her Jesus Woman and the White Devil would threaten Cameron in the home. She once spent the night in a San Jose jail while seeking the release of a Chinese woman. However, Cameron continued her mission. At one point, a bomb was placed at the Presbyterian house and exploded. No one was harmed, but it did send the message that they meant business. She was disturbing things. Even if the children were rescued and kept safe in the house, fastbinders and the pimps would always try and steal them back, sometimes coming to the door with the police, and they would say that they were the husband looking for their wife. Once freed, Chinese women were forced to reside at the Presbyterian house, where they were not allowed outside without an escort, and to convert to Christianity. Now, while some Chinese immigrant women welcomed conversion and saw Donaldina as a savior, nicknaming her Lomo, translated as mother, others had mixed feelings about forced conversions. Often Donaldina would be very patronizing toward these women, using terms like waif and children to describe the residents of her home. Very rarely was Chinese culture integrated into the education of the girls in the home. Instead, there was a strict curriculum of English, Christianity, and Western housekeeping skills. Finally, the women of the home were allowed to leave the home if they married a Christian man approved of by Cameron. In April of 1906, the Great San Francisco earthquake and fire forced the evacuation of the Presbyterian home. Donaldina returned the night of the earthquake through the blazing city to retrieve her logbook that detailed her guardianship over the girls at the home, thus ensuring their safety from being forced back into servitude or prostitution. The home itself was destroyed in the earthquake, and it was rebuilt 1 year later, 1907, at 920 Sacramento Street, where it stands today. Cameron also wrote extensively, seeking to gain financial support for her mission in the publications like Women in Missions and a pamphlet titled The Yellow Slave Traffic. This writing often furthered Orientalist depictions of Chinese women, but also challenged popular misconceptions that such women were incapable of integrating into American society. Donaldina Cameron also founded 2 homes for Chinese children. Many of these children were orphans or the children of rescued women. The Chungmei home served young boys, while the Mingkwang home was for girls, and the former Chungmei house of today is part of the Windrush School in El Cerrito, California. And the Mingkwang home is now part of Mills College in Oakland, California. In 1935, a third Mingkwang home, or baby house, was founded in Los Gatos, California. And younger Chinese American girls were taken care of here until they were old enough, age 13, to move to Oakland, California. That home today is part of a nonprofit, EMQ, Families First. Donaldina Cameron retired from her missionary work and the Presbyterian home in 1934. She is credited with saving and educating over 2,000 Chinese immigrant women and girls. Before her death, she was considered something of a national icon, and her life story was told in 3 biographies, some with fictional elements. In 1942, the Presbyterian home was renamed the Donaldina Cameron House. Cameron House still stands today in San Francisco, and it serves as a multi-service agency, serving the Asian communities by promoting healthy Christian communities through programs like youth sports, tutoring, and counseling. After retirement, Donaldina Cameron moved to the area of Palo Alto, California, and she died January 4th, 1968, at the age of 98.
Oh my.
Many times in Chinatown, when I'm giving my Drag Me Along tours, I'll tell her story outside of a church, and often, because it's on Sunday, the churchgoers will hear me telling the stories to the tourists, and they smile listening, and then they say, yes, it's true. If Donaldina Cameron hadn't saved my grandmother, I wouldn't be here today. Now, it's a reminder, she did many wonderful things and saved a lot of these young girls out of prostitution and educated them. But it is part of the colonial experience, you see, that whenever there are colonizers and they're forcing religion on you, that also has a very negative effect as well, as much as our native population. So the argument in Chinatown to this day is, was she a good person or was she evil? So there's that mix right there, She saved their lives, but yet she robbed them of their culture. And I think that's always the case, that we have to examine, because after all, we don't write history. History writes itself.
Well, what a tremendous figure from our city's history. As you well know, Countess, we stood up for the Chinese community as well on a number of occasions. There was no excuse for prejudice. Mm-hmm. So what else do we have today, Countess?
Well, I think we're going to have a new guest today.
Oh, boy.
Yes, we're going to go with the route of country western music. And Miss I'm a Cracker. But we're going to have to conjure her up. So I will consult the crystal. She can charm the feathers off a duck, it's been said. And she could charm the dew right off the honeysuckle. She can rock them high-heeled shoes, but she'd rather wear cowboy boots. The diva of country western music is here to sing today. And fresh from the Horny Bull Bareback Bar in Killeen, Texas, Miss I'm a Cracker.
Oh boy.
Iggity piggity bumblebee. I want to hear I'm a Cracker for me. You made me love you. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. You made me want you, and all the time you knew it. I guess you always knew it. You made me happy sometimes. Sometimes you made me glad. But there were times, dear, you made me feel real bad. You made me sigh, for I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to tell you. I want some loving, that's true. Yes, indeed, indeed I do. You know I do. Gimme, gimme, gimme what I cry for. You know you got the brand of kisses that I die for. You know you made me love you. Oh, you made me sigh, for I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to tell you. I want some loving, that's true. Yes, I do. Indeed, I do. You know I do. Gimme, gimme, gimme what I cry for. You know you got the brand of kisses that I die for. You know you made me love you.
Oh, we're back. Well, Miss Cracker was a delight.
Well, not all that it's cracked up to be, I suppose.
Yes. It wasn't crummy, though.
No, well,
No.
There we have it. Well, thank you for having me on today, and hello to all of us out there, and thank you for joining in.
Indeed. And thank you for being here today, Countess. So, just a few parting words. Don't forget, we do accept tips. As you will see, as you saw rather, in the preceding segment, we now have green screen technology thanks to you. And we're going to have some more surprises coming up. So if you'd like to leave a tip, here's the information for that. You can do monthly subscriptions or one-time donations. Here are your choices on that. We appreciate all of our generous donors. In addition, tours will be restarting soon. We're going to restart in November, the Countess at some other date.
Well, perhaps down the road.
So if you'd like more information about those tours or just San Francisco history in general, because there are a tremendous amount of links on these websites, here they are, check those out. Don't forget to leave comments down below. So, till we see you again, stay safe, stay healthy. But if you do go outside, just wear the mask, please. Please, please wear a mask. Do not take unproven cures that might kill you. Be kind to one another. Until we see you again, a gracious good day.
Au revoir.